What's going on, everybody? My name is Cam and welcome back to another video on 3 childhood games, which is this one's a little bit different since it's not my childhood games. Well, one of them are, two of them are. Two of these games that you as the viewers have requested that I make a video on. The first one comes from Done Yet 33. My favorite old childhood game is Rogue Rogue Agent. I'm guessing you said it meant spelled rogue. Please do a video on that one. I will for sure do that. Here we go.
Goldfinger, a member of the most powerful criminal organization in the world, has seized the U.S. gold depository at Fort Knox.
Everyone wants to be the bad guy, to live the life you want. It is believed that humans feel this way because we are innately flawed beings and can more easily relate to someone who is totally bad rather than someone who is totally good. And flawed beings are people who constantly think they can recreate and recapture the magic that was the original GoldenEye 007. It was the perfect game at the perfect time. And attempt as they will, no one will ever live up to it. EA thought that they would try to roll in off GoldenEye's success without actually making a game connected to the original in any way. They wanted to let you be the bad guy and also cashing in. You start the game off as an agent within MI6, but after a mission where you are shot in the eye by Dr. No, you become full of rage and the agency has to let you go. You are then recruited by Goldfinger to work for him. He has Francisco Scaramanga craft you a gold-tinted artificial eye, and you receive the codename GoldenEye.
An eye for an eye for an eye.
You then go out into the field and help Goldfinger handle some business situations, which leads to an all-out war with Dr. No and involves numerous famous Bond villains. The game is played from a first-person perspective, but offers some things to try and set itself apart. For one, there is your golden eye, which does more than just let you see. You can use it to see enemies through objects and hack enemy weapons to have them shut off, among other things. But you are not left to the mercy of your golden eye. You can hold your own. You are able to dual-wield weapons, with a pistol in one hand and an assault rifle in another, which makes you a force to be reckoned with. And you can take enemies hostage and use them as human shields. You will go through all the missions and cause mayhem and destruction, and leave plenty of bodies behind you. The game does have some problems. For one, many of the missions are just you going through generic-looking environments and killing the same enemies over and over. Apparently, there is a strict dress code to work for a Bond villain. Another thing is the game doesn't make you feel like a bad guy, as you will be battling and killing other bad guys. There is no taking Bond himself hostage, which hurts the feeling of the game. In the end, it is a fun but forgettable shooter that fails to live up to the title it has been given.
Alright, my thoughts on it. Personally, this is the first time I've ever heard of this game. I've never heard of this game whatsoever. I didn't even know it was an actual game. But my thoughts on it were it looks pretty cool. Like the fact that you can really hold a P90 and what looked like a Desert Eagle in both hands is kind of cool. Like just imagine going through multiple levels just like guns blazing, no matter how much damage you take. You just like going through the missions, freaking blazing through them, and you're just like spraying. Like that's what types of games that I would like to play, is that you can literally go through any type of mission, just guns blazing, no cover needed, just like shooting. And I'm actually kind of disappointed that I didn't get to play it. It looks like a cool game. I'm not going to lie to you. It looks like a cool game. But, moving on. Alright, this next one comes from Courtney. I'll blade out the last name for respect. Unless you don't want last name blanked out, but I'm gonna blank it out anyway because I don't know. Just out of respect and stuff. But it says used to do Raymond Raving Rabbids. Oh my god, it on Xbox. Let's watch this. Oh, this is gonna be bright. So many memories. Oh yeah, by the way, Courtney's my sister. Just saying. Just get that out of the way. So, I remember playing this with her all the time.
Raving Rabbids, released as a launch title for the Nintendo Wii in 2006 and ported to the other current consoles shortly thereafter. What I think puts Rabbids into its own territory in terms of the Rayman spin-offs is twofold. The first reason being that, of course, it was the only spin-off to become so wildly popular and profitable that it splintered off of Rayman and became a major IP in its own right. The second reason is that this game is really controversial among the Rayman fandom. Scroll through the comments of any Rabbids video and you will find people lamenting that this game even exists. And it's not exactly hard to see why they feel this way. Back in the years leading up to this game's launch, some of the earliest marketing material pitches this game as much more of a traditional 3D platforming adventure like previous games in the series were. Rayman 4 was the tentative title for the game in development,
The
and
racing,
you can even
man.
navigate your way to the game's directory on the PC version and see the
Oh my
files
god, I
referring
don't
to
care. I
themselves
just
in such a
want
way.
an actual like
The
review.
point of this intro so far is that, thanks to the power of hindsight, I'm not
Oh,
one of
the
the people
dancing.
going into this game with false expectations. Almost 13 years have passed since this game first came out, so let's go back and see exactly what this game is and whether or not it's still enjoyable today, even if it's not Rayman 4.
I forgot some of these game modes, man. Never played. Oh, I played that
Raving
one. never mind.
Rabbids begins with a small cutscene of Rayman enjoying a casual picnic. Suddenly, his leisure is disturbed by a bunch of subterranean rabbits, and the brute among them drags Rayman off to be a champion in their gladiatorial games. That is basically all you need to know about the story and premise for this game. You compete in a variety of different minigames. There are 4 minigames today, and you need to complete at least 3 of them to unlock the boss fight for that day. Beat the boss fight, get thrown back into your lodgings for the night, then do it all again when the sun rises once more. This framework is one that remains constant throughout the entirety of what Raving Rabbids asks from you from its 4-hour main campaign. And make no mistake, despite the fact that this is a minigame collection, the campaign really is the focus here. The lean multiplayer options revolve around you picking out individual trials to compete against with your friend, and there really isn't any structured option to put those minigames into a proper gauntlet or party mode. On top of that, most of the minigames really feel like they were built as single player first and made multiplayer later. They will usually just take the single player minigame and divide the actions between 2 players, rather than adding something new, which is disappointing. I'd say the most enjoyable way to play this with a friend is just to hand off the controller in between minigames. With the multiplayer being kind of drab and the story itself being the bare minimum, there's one major reason to play the game outside of the minigames themselves. That reason? The Rabbids. The Rabbids are hilarious.
This
These
game
little
mode
guys
was
are the
easily
kings
my
of
favorite.
slapstick. Most of the challenges here involve the Rabbids getting hurt in increasingly creative ways, such as this button mashing challenge where you beat this rabbit with a hammer, and a soccer free kicking game where the rabbit is the ball. The game dresses and dolls them up in the silliest of manners just to get a chuckle out of you. Each themed challenge will usually have the rabbit donning era-appropriate attire, like cowboy rabbids and beach lounging rabbids. There's also the occasional curveball, like rabbids rappelling down on screen while dressed as Sam Fisher. I actually laughed out loud the first time I saw the Superman-inspired rabbid and his adoring fans. It's really not hard to see why these guys spun off into their own series. They're always doing something goofy every time they're on screen, and their signature noises are infectiously funny.
Freaking Simon Says, man.
And now, the minigames. I would say that the minigames themselves are mostly a win. They are challenges usually about a minute or so in length that have a great amount of variety. Seeing the campaign through to its ending will have you brushing up against each individual minigame about twice, with the second time being a more advanced version of the first. The quality of the games themselves vary, but I would say the overwhelming bulk of them manage to be good, or at the very least, humorous. Spraying carrot juice into the snorkels of incoming rabid hordes, smacking rabid choir boys who are singing out of key, slamming the door shut on rabids using public restrooms, all of these and more are the activities you can expect to do on the journey. They are simple enough that they can be explained in a small one-screen instruction section prior to each challenge beginning, and the best of them will have you wanting to replay for even better scores. The weak minigames that stand out are the ones that really deviate from the hilarity of the rabids too much. Look at this one where you navigate this icon around screen to avoid the ghosts. It's so lifeless and it really sticks out. It's a good thing that minigames like it count themselves among the minority here. The more keystone boss minigames are ones that you can expect to see even more than twice throughout the adventure here, but with good reason, seeing as how they are generally more involved. An example of one of these is an on-rails shooter where you gun down rabids with a plunger gun. These sequences justify their frequency and longer length by having multiple different mechanics, such as shooting, grabbing, and power-ups. They also have enemy variety with different weak spots and patterns. I also found a lot of joy in this Warthog racing minigame. The unwieldy and slippery control of these beasts made them a real challenge just to navigate around simple turns, and I'm glad that this one pops its head up like 3 or 4 times over the duration of the game. Adding to the amusement of the zany rabbit antics is the fact that you can dress up Rayman himself too. By completing certain challenges, you will unlock a bunch of different costumes for Rayman, each of which can be mixed and matched from within your wardrobe. They give a great reason to go back and do extra minigames you may have skipped the first time, and are also one more reason to walk around your bedroom. The small living space that the rabbits assign you, which gets increasingly more comfortable as they grow more elated with your performance, can be walked around in. You can access games from the previous days here, as well as listen to music from the jukebox. More music can be unlocked by participating in the dancing minigame. It's probably worth mentioning that this dancing minigame is another heavily pushed minigame. It's always one out of the 4 trials that you can challenge daily, but each day has a different track to keep it fresh. Some of these tunes are even licensed, so expect to break it down to the Black Eyed Peas at least once. What I think separates Rayman Raving Rabbids the most from its platforming predecessors, aside from the change in genre, is just a general lack of polish. It's a shame I felt this way after my completion of the game, but this is one of the only...
We're not going to talk about polish and all that, because Raving Rabbids is just a freaking spectacular type of game. It doesn't even have to be polished. I mean, all you really have to do is have funniness, and then the rabbits. That's all you got to do. Because the rabbits, every time you see them, like you said, you literally, every time you see them, they were doing something dumb. They were doing something dumb, or they dressed someone up, or they're like hurting someone else or themselves. It was just that level of comedy was just so like funny to these rabbits. It was so amazing a game. I had so much fun playing it. Me and my sister, we would always play this game together. She would want to play like the dancing one. I would want to play the shooting one because, you know, I would play the racing one. She would play, what was it? The jump roping one. It was just a fun game. And I highly recommend you getting this game. If you can't get it anymore, if you can find it, I highly recommend getting it because there's a lot of stuff in this game that this guy hasn't even touched on. But, anyways, next comment. This one comes from Eli. Can you review an old game called COD 2? Big red one. Must be real one. Sure thing, Eli. I'll look into it. Now, I played this game. I didn't play in multiplayer. But I did play the campaign. Alright.
Call of Duty 2 is the sequel to Call of Duty, developed by Infinity Ward and released in 2005 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. It was one of the first so-called next-gen games at the time and was something of a definitive end for the old-school style shooter. First things first, Call of Duty 2 is very much like its predecessor in almost every single way. You play through one of 3 campaigns as either the Russians, British, or the Americans. Each of these campaigns is broken up into a variety of so-called historical missions, and they each had their own respective weapons and environments. As before, the Russian campaign steals the show simply because it's got the most originality, and some of the levels set in the blistering snowstorms are still really impressive in terms of visuals and design.
Sir, there's a German attack forming to the southeast. It looks serious.
The highlight has to be the finale, where you hold up in Stalingrad City Hall, sniping machine gun nests and approaching soldiers. Now, that's not to say the British and US campaigns are bad. In fact, you'll take on some fantastic missions in the British campaign throughout Egypt, with fan favourite Captain Price returning as your commanding officer.
All right, listen up. We're finished here. Well done, boys.
There's also a really well scripted, explosive opening for the US campaign set on the historical Pointe de Hoc, forcing the player to scale a cliff and take back a small pocket of farmland. But eventually both of these campaigns delve into the typical setting that's being done to death, where you move through various farms and villages, taking out MG nests, mortar teams, and all that other filler crap that World War II games are synonymous with. There are some recurring characters in each campaign. As I mentioned before, you fight alongside Captain Price yet again in the British missions, but ultimately most of your allies are just randomly generated soldiers that spawn from around corners, and seem to die off as quickly as they appear. Now, the shooting in COD 2 comes down to a variety of factors, based off your stance and whether or not you're aiming down the sights or firing from the hip. As in the first game, you've got 3 stances: standing, crouching, and lying prone, which all affect your accuracy in pretty big ways. Furthermore, aiming down the sights can increase your accuracy tenfold. You'll need to swap out weapons frequently to suit the situation, but also because ammo can only be scavenged if it's for the weapon you're already holding. And as German soldiers often don't carry around M1 Garens or Thompson machine guns, you'll have to be a bit creative on the battlefield. I did find that single-shot weapons aren't entirely useful, only because enemies seem to die from 2 or 3 shots regardless of what gun you're using. So like a couple quick taps from an MP40 will do an enemy in as quickly as 2 shots with a reload in between from, say, a Springfield rifle will, for instance. Something that is immediately different between the first and second game are the visuals. It's leaps and bounds better looking in the first game almost across the board. From simple things like textures, lighting, and particle effects, but also through to the sheer scale of some of the battles. There is literally 100 things happening on screen at any one time. Some of the missions have dozens and dozens of soldiers at once, and it's simply amazing how well it all runs. One of the early Russian missions has you hold back a large wave of German soldiers before storming back upon them and destroying an entire building to finish off the stragglers. To say some of these moments are epic is an understatement. One of the last missions in the game has you fighting back hundreds of German soldiers as you wait 5 nail-biting minutes for reinforcements to show up. Now, even by today's standards, this is still amazing stuff. Weapons are modelled with incredible attention to detail, sound and music is stellar with a cinematic soundtrack composed by Graham Ravel, and each location and setting feels real and believable. I'm also impressed by all of the voice acting for both the Allied and Axis soldiers. I mean, this is a game with a lot of polish, and it still shows to this day. But something I guess worth mentioning about this game is its repetition. I mean, you're really only shooting the same looking guy over and over. I know it's a World War II game and all that, so you can't expect to be taking on mutants and zombies, but it does get a bit boring at times. Most enemies are pretty intelligent. I mean, they can run around and shoot at you without too much hassle. They'll retreat when under fire, and they are quite good at flanking you. One thing they are pretty damn good at, however, is throwing grenades. It's this uncanny skill that all the Germans seem to have. Regardless of where you're hiding or where you position yourself, they always seem to be able to lob one right at your goddamn feet with robotic precision, and it's just annoying. This sort of thing becomes even worse on the high difficulties, and in the later levels, you will literally have half a dozen of the things flung at you at once. On the other hand, throwing grenades at them is often pretty much useless because 99% of the time, they're able to just pick them right up and throw them right back at you within seconds. Then on the other hand, your own teammates are close to being completely useless. Sometimes you'll see them take out an enemy, but most of the time they just run around in the line of fire and get their heads blown off. Having so many of them at any one time is really just for show to make the overall setting seem much more epic, because in reality these guys are dumb as dog shit. I mean, I've seen these guys crouch from a live grenade when it's literally on the ground like a meter away from them. Another point of criticism comes from the fact that this game kind of popularized the whole regenerating health fad, something that is still being used in games to this day. To be honest, I don't have that much of an issue with it, only because this is the kind of game that it really suits. Regenerating health might seem a bit casual in the way that you can just kind of play a bit half-assed and then just hide behind a wall when the game informs you that you're going to die. But even if you still play like a total jackass, regenerating health isn't going to stop you from getting your ass handed to you. To put it very simply, having an old school health system in this game just would not have worked. I mean, think about it. There's gunfights that just go on for upwards of 10 minutes, where you kill dozens and dozens of soldiers, and the amount of health packs that would have been needed to put in a level to accommodate for this would have just been comedic. I mean, imagine something like the final battle on Hill 400. They'd have to have an extra room in the bunker full of health kits just for this alone. This is a cinematic game first and foremost. It's about delivering an intense and visceral experience. Now, to force the player to stop what he's doing and double back to grab a health kit in the middle of this would have just killed the pace of the game. Also, having said that, there's no more quick saves or manual saves of any kind, and you'll have to rely on checkpoints to get you by. I see this obviously for the sake of people playing on consoles, but also because it would downright kill the mood if you just kind of quick saved and quick loaded in the middle of one of the game's scripted sequences. Aside from this, there isn't really anything outright wrong with Call of Duty 2. I mean, I know lots of people like to give this game heaps of shit as if it's the game that ruined the FPS genre, but that's a load of crap, to be honest. I would still say this is a must-play game for any FPS fan. I mean, it's even arguably one of the single greatest World War II games ever made. It's not a terribly long game. I think it can be finished in around 5 to 6 hours, depending on what difficulty mode you go for, and after it's finished, there's not really any reason to ever play the single player again. You can go back and try it on a higher difficulty, but all that really seems to do is raise the damage taken from enemies to an unfairly high level. The game also has a standalone multiplayer mode as well, modes like Deathmatch and Capture the Flag, but I will give you a warning that if you are going to give this a try, you're going to get your fucking ass handed to you. I'm not even kidding, some of these guys have played this game since release and are still playing it, which kind of makes it a little bit less enjoyable when you're getting spawn killed by people who know every nook and cranny of a map. People spamming grenades literally the entire time and having godlike accuracy with a lot of the game's more powerful weapons. It also basically plays the same as the Modern Warfare series, but a lot slower and with a lot less crap flying up on the screen. Overall though, this game is really Call of Duty at its finest, when the entire focus of the series was on creating a polished and engaging single player mode, and that above all else. And for that alone, it should be experienced by anyone who's a fan of the series and just shooting games in general.
That's how you negotiate with fascist comrades!
The series may really be the antithesis of FPS games nowadays, but back then when COD 2 came along, this was an extremely fun and enjoyable game that excited and amazed with all its set pieces and incredible attention to detail.
I've already played this game. I played Call of Duty 2 a lot. I played the campaign a lot. Like you said, it didn't get boring to me. Basically, it just didn't. The highest I could get to complete it on, I think there was like 4 difficulties, if I'm not too bad mistaken. It was easy, normal, hard, and then maybe extreme or something. Can't remember. Might have been only 3. I don't know. The most I could is I completed it on hard mode one time. My God, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Because like you said, even in the multiplayer, you're going to get your butt handed to you. If you actually want to play a good shooter, go to Call of Duty 2 or Call of Duty 3. Because those are good ones. Those are good ones. I played Call of Duty 3 multiplayer and Call of Duty campaign. Call of Duty 3 multiplayer and Call of Duty 3 campaign a lot more than I played Call of Duty 2. But yeah, guys, I think that's gonna wrap up this video. Just a suggestion: do y'all want me to play Five Nights at Freddy's for the next horror game? If you want to see me play Five Nights at Freddy's on the channel in a couple days or something, or maybe a couple days from now, comment down below that you want to see that, and then maybe if you want to see more of these childhood games that y'all suggest, I would be more than happy to review them, because I love doing this. I love seeing what kind of games y'all played as a child, and I just don't want to make this channel all about me, even though it is my channel. So comment down below what game you want me to review next if I haven't already done it, and comment that you want me to play Five Nights at Freddy's next as the next horror game, because I'm gonna put out the first video, see how it does, and if y'all don't want it, then I'll just like stop it. I may delete the video. But anyways, guys, that's gonna conclude this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe if you're just wanting to see more content like this. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one. Later, guys.